The evening was supposed to be simple, a quiet appearance at my wife Emma's annual office party, smile for a few photos, and then slip out before the small talk swallowed me. I wasn't the flashy type. I liked to stay in the background, even though I'd built 3 successful businesses from scratch. To most people, I was just a quiet husband who worked somewhere in tech. That night, Emma looked stunning in a silver dress that shimmered under the chandeliers. She seemed nervous, though. "Just behave, okay," she whispered before we walked in. I frowned. "Behave?" She forced a smile. "I just mean, don't talk too much business stuff. My boss doesn't like show-offs." I chuckled. If only she knew. Inside, the office buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and polite corporate chatter. Emma worked at an advertising firm that had recently landed a massive new account, one of mine, actually. I'd invested quietly through a holding company, making sure my identity stayed under wraps. I wanted to see how the company operated from within, how people treated one another without knowing who was really behind the curtain. Emma pulled me toward a group by the buffet table. "This is my boss, Richard." Tall, sharp suit, confident grin, he extended his hand with the kind of arrogance that comes from thinking you're the smartest person in the room. "So you're Emma's husband? The one who stays home and does consulting?" His tone dripped with amusement. A few people chuckled. I smiled politely. "Something like that." He laughed. "Well, don't worry. We'll take good care of your wife here. She's got potential, though she still has a lot to learn." He winked at Emma. She blushed awkwardly, and something about that look made my jaw tighten. I didn't like him. Not just because of his smug attitude, but the way his eyes lingered on her too long, too casually. Still, I stayed calm. There's power in patience. I listened as he went on bragging about his strategies, belittling other staff, and taking credit for campaigns Emma had told me she'd designed. She stood there silently, smiling through it. I realized she'd been tolerating this behavior for months, maybe years. Then came the real insult. As we sat down for dinner, Richard raised his glass. "To the hard work of this team. Especially Emma's husband, for supporting her career from the couch." The table erupted in laughter. Emma's face turned crimson. I smiled, calmly. I wasn't angry. I was curious to see just how far he'd go. "Oh, I'm not really on the couch much," I said lightly. "I prefer running a few businesses from my office. Keeps me busy." Richard smirked. "Ah, entrepreneur. Everyone's an entrepreneur these days. What's your company called?" I took a sip of wine. "Oh, it's not one. Just a few ventures. One of them might even sound familiar." He leaned forward mockingly. "Oh? Which one?" I looked around the table, locking eyes with each of the directors seated nearby. "Harrison Holdings." The laughter stopped. Richard's smirk faltered. A woman at the end of the table dropped her fork. The name carried weight. Harrison Holdings was the parent company of their firm. Emma's eyes widened in confusion. "Wait. Harrison Holdings," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Yes. The same Harrison Holdings that recently acquired Sterling and Company." Richard blinked. "That's us." "Exactly," I said. I wanted to meet the team behind my latest acquisition. Thought this party might be a good place to start. The silence was delicious. Richard's face drained of color. His voice stammered. You're that Harrison?" I smiled. "Just Daniel is fine." Then I turned to Emma, who looked equal parts horrified and proud. I didn't want to make a scene. But it's good to finally put faces to the names. Suddenly, the same people who had laughed earlier were tripping over themselves to compliment me, to offer drinks, to apologize for the misunderstanding. Richard tried to recover. "Daniel, I didn't realize." Your wife's one of our best. We're lucky to have her. Oh, I know, I said smoothly. In fact, I was reviewing the employee feedback last week. Funny thing, your leadership style came up quite a few times. He froze. Feedback? Yes. Arrogant. Dismissive. Takes credit for others' work. I let the words hang. But I'm sure we can address that soon. Emma's lips twitched, barely hiding a smile. Dinner dragged on painfully for Richard. He kept fidgeting, trying to charm his way out, but the power dynamic had shifted completely. When dessert came, I leaned toward him. You know, you were right about one thing earlier. He glanced up nervously. About what? Emma's got potential, I said, resting my hand on hers. And starting Monday, she'll have your office. The table went dead quiet again. Emma gasped. Wait, what? I nodded. Effective immediately, you're being reassigned, Richard. HR will contact you in the morning. Your department needs someone capable, respectful, and creative, qualities you seem to lack. He sat back, speechless. Emma covered her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. The rest of the staff exchanged stunned looks, unsure whether to congratulate her or stay silent. When the night finally ended, we walked out into the cool air. Emma stopped me by the car. You knew all along? I smiled softly. I just wanted to see how people treated you when they didn't know who I was. You didn't deserve the way he spoke to you. She exhaled, still processing. And the promotion? You earned it, I said. Not because you're my wife, but because you're brilliant. I just made sure the right person noticed. For once, she couldn't find words. She just threw her arms around me. Inside that embrace, I felt what real partnership meant, not one built on appearances or power, but on quiet strength and mutual respect. As we drove away, the lights of the building faded behind us. Emma held my hand tightly, smiling for the first time that night. And somewhere inside, I couldn't help but think, sometimes, the sweetest revenge is delivered with nothing more than a calm smile and the truth.